afternoon, everybody. Silverbolt here, back for another Transformers review. To those who are celebrating it, happy Easter. It is Good Friday. To those who aren't, go out and eat lots of chocolate. It's a win-win situation for everybody. Okay, today we're going to be doing Skyfire / Jetfire. I'll get to that in a bit. And I'm going to be using the classics line for it. And the reason for that is twofold. One, I don't have the original Jetfire. And two, I haven't done a classics review yet. So this will be quite a nice one, because I've got nearly all of them, all the classics line now. The only ones I'm missing is Mirage, who I think looks anorexic, and Rodimus and Grimlock. They're the only ones I'm actually missing. I've got all the others. I've either got them or they're on the way to me. Skyfire first shows up in, I think it's the episode Fire in the Sky, and he's dug out of the ice on Earth. And it turns out that him and Starscream have been friends before on Cybertron before the war. During a routine exploration mission, Skyfire gets caught up in Earth's atmospheric gravity and crashes to the Earth, and he's buried in the ice. Starscream, of course, apparently searches for him. We can only assume he does, because at this point it's assumed that Starscream's not actually evil. And then goes back to Cybertron and promptly forgets about him. They unthaw him, and he joins the Decepticon cause. Though it's quite clear that he's not a Decepticon, even when he's still supposedly fighting for Megatron. You know, he's not a Decepticon. Of course, Skyfire does eventually see the light and joins the Autobot cause. At the end of the episode, Skyfire does get trapped back in the ice. And the Autobots hold a swift memorial and leave him there. Character-wise, he's a very daring person. He's a scientist. So he's prone to quite a few breakdowns, because he's always using very advanced technology on himself that don't always work correctly. But he's a very daring person. He's very willing to go in and help anybody. And unfortunately, this trait does get rather abused by the Autobots. I mean, when at the end of Fire in the Sky episode, when the Autobots leaves Skyfire in the ice, you think that's the end of him. But no, they come back about an episode later, and dig him up. And do you know why? So he can fly them to Peru. You know, I mean, I have to say, poor, if that was me, I'd have told him to go do one. You know, I help you fight the Decepticons, I get trapped in the ice to save you all, you leave me there, and then you come and dig me up when you want to lift. And that's pretty much all Skyfire does in the cartoons, is he's used like a taxi. And a bit of muscle. But he never complains about it. Because he's quite tough. You know, he's got this big gun, his big double-barrel weapon, and he's quite a tough Transformer. Because he's a big Autobot. You know, he's bigger than Prime. He's bigger than the Dinobots. You know, so he's a big guy, and he's not afraid to use it. As I said, he's a very daring person. It appears that Skyfire's reign does seem to end in the episode Dark Awakening. A ship that looks very similar to Skyfire gets destroyed by the Quintesson's attack. But then you also see a ship that looks remarkably like Powerglide and remarkably like Silverbolt get blown up. So whether you can take that as candor, don't know. Anyway, a little bit on the history of the toy. Now, originally, Skyfire was supposed to be called Jetfire. Hasbro, who are of course a bunch of lazy fuckers who never do anything they don't have to, as evident by the fact that they ripped off the Diaclone range to pass it off as Transformers, took Jetfire, which was a Takotu VF1S Super Valkyrie. Sorry, I couldn't remember the codes, I've got it written on my screen. From a toy range, from the Macross toy range. And basically all it was done was it was recoloured, repackaged, had a few minor tweaks, and had an Autobot symbol slapped on it, and that was Jetfire. However, because Hasbro didn't make him look like his cartoon counterpart, and Jetfire is glaringly different. It's not like the Diaclone toy range where they look somewhat similar, even if they're not exact. Jetfire / Skyfire is remarkably different. There is nothing, apart from his size and colour, that marks him out to be Skyfire from the cartoons. Sorry, my camera just flickered for some reason. Okay, now, the Jetfire animation model was adjusted as a compromise to Takara, because obviously Takara didn't like the fact that Hasbro had gone and used a different toy. Didn't like that at all. Quite understandably. And so that was why, because it didn't look like it was supposed to do in the cartoon. Sorry, because the cartoon character didn't look like the toy, it was renamed Skyfire. That's one of the theories. There are other theories, which I'm not going to go into because there's about 8 different theories. One of the reasons that seems to be the most popularly accepted one as to why Hasbro didn't use the Takara toy, but instead used the Takatu Macross series, was that what Hasbro representatives used to do, they used to go to Asia, which of course was home of all this sci-fi cult stuff since even before the 80s. I mean, I think Gundam's been running since something like 78, 79, so. And then have a look around the fairs and see what they wanted and what looked good. So obviously somebody came across Skyfire and took it. As I said, Hasbro, bunch of lazy fuckers. Let's not bother making our own toys, we'll just rip off somebody else's. We'll buy it out, we'll repackage it, and we'll sell it under a different name. Okay, now, one last point I will make. The Energon Omnicon, Skyblast, was created as a homage, kind of like to Skyfire. Now, he would have been called Skyfire, apart from one little thing. Mattel had gone and formatted the trademark name. So Hasbro really got their legs pulled out from under them as far as Skyfire / Jetfire was concerned. Okay? Now, onto the toy. Now, the toy, the Classics toy, bears a lot of resemblance to the original Jetfire. And it seems they've tried to do an amalgamation of both the cartoon Skyfire and the Jetfire toy. So he's got the big boosting rocket packs. And you can make him into 3 modes. You can have him like this, which is this armoured plane super duper carrier. Or you can take off these little energy pods here and these rocket boosters and have them just as a normal jet. Though it is an absolute bugger to take them off and put them back on, especially the jets. Okay? Transforming him, Classics Fire aren't exactly a nightmare to transform, so it's fairly easy. Of course, this being me, I won't be able to do it at this moment in time, so I'm just going to transform him now. If I can. Oh yes, I can. And I'll get to the point about certain things that he looks like in a minute. I need to take that out. I said in robot mode, as in the plain robot mode, he does look very similar to his original to the original toy, and I'll point out the very glaring obvious similarities like the head and the chest plates and all that, and I'll just get rid of that missile. Yes, with it being a Hasbro toy, it does, with it being a modern Hasbro toy, it does have the obligatory spring-loaded missiles, and I caught that one. So yes, it does have that. Okay. Now, this is him transformed, and this is him in... Hang on, I'll take the arms off. If I can get him to pop out. And as I said, they did make this Skyfire to look like a cross between the original toy, the original Macross toy, and the cartoon. So he's got a very Skyfire-esque, you can see, cartoon head in this mode. And he's got that big signature double-barreled blaster cannon that the cartoon Skyfire had. However, you can have him in a second mode, which is what I call the ultimate Gundam Transformery death thing, or something like that I didn't just make up. So you clip on these missile launcher arms, and you've got this head here which clips on like that, and it is a very Gundam-y, Patlabor-y, I suppose you could even say Macross Robotech style head, and then you pull these down, these clip out, and you've got these Pajunga, huge shoulder-mounted cannons. And he at this point, I think he stops looking like a Transformer, and he looks like something out of another Japanese cartoon. I personally think he looks remarkably like a Gundam, which I must start downloading at some point. So when I say downloading, I of course mean 100% legally buy. He does look very much like a Gundam, but he does look uber. You know, he does look uber. Now, I personally keep him in his Autobot Skyfire mode. So I always have these folded back, which I have to admit is quite a nice addition, you know, having them fold away like that, instead of having them just clip back into place. Because one of the problems with the original Jetfire, was that it was a very breakable toy. You know, the clips, especially the shoulder clips, did have a tendency to snap. And it's one of the problems you'll have of getting an original G1 Jetfire, because most of the time the pieces aren't in it. So I take off these wrist-mounted missile launchers, and I just have him like that. I keep the booster pack on it, because Jetfire in the cartoon did have that big, bulky thing on his back. I do like this toy. I think it's quite possibly the nicest in the Classics range. It is quite possibly the nicest in the Classics range. I do think it. Fault-wise, it's not really too much to fault it, apart from two things. One, if you don't have the wrist-mounted rocket launchers, you get this gaping hole in the side of his wrist. That black bit there is just a hole. So, the other thing as well is his feet. They're like that. Hang on, let's get it right. There you go. You can backdrop it against the white sheet. You can see it now. So I don't like that, and it makes him very awkward to stand up. And it is a thing with the Classics. If you put them in anything else other than arm out front with a gun in the hand kind of pose, they don't stand up very well. But other than that, very, very nice toy. Very nice toy. There is also another very nice toy, which I will order at some point, but haven't got around to, which is the titanium one. And that's a metal and plastic moulded version. And that's also very nice. From what I've seen of the pictures, and from what I've seen of the quality in the other titanium series, because I saw a Optimus Primal in Forbidden Planet yesterday, and I would have bought it apart from the fact it's Forbidden Planet. And Forbidden Planet, of course, is a store that takes great delight and has a almost inhuman perseverance in ripping its customers off blind. They had, I think it was Vinyl Tech Swindle for something like £47, 47 quid. So no, I don't buy anything in Forbidden Planet. But that's the one thing that really got me. They had the reissue cup and wheeler, you know, the Target Master. You'll pick it up for 25 quid on eBay, including postage and packaging. Forbidden Planet have it in there for 50 quid. And it's like, I really want it, because I do like the Target Masters, but I'm not paying 50 quid for it. But anyway, that's not here or there. Classic Skyfire, Jetfire, whatever you want to call him, because of course he's Jetfire in all the other cartoons. In all the other cartoons, he is Jetfire. If you can get any of the classics, get this one, because this one is so nice. It really is such a nice toy. Probably looking at about 15 quid for it. 15 to 20 quid about it. It's about the same price as the Prime, or that giant Nerf gun Megatron, which I do have. And apart from the fact that the cannon's underslung, other than that, I think it's lovely. I think it's quite nice, even if he is bright green wings. As I said, with the Classics Megatron, the only problem I do have with it is that underslung arm cannon. Like, but anyway, I'm digressing. But yes, Classics Jetfire, very nice toy, very nice addition to my range. My Classic shelf is currently on my newsstand all at the top. Okay, but for now, this is Silverbolt with Classics Jetfire. Get the name right. Signing off, saying au revoir, adios, auf Wiedersehen.